Dr. Starr argued his case for continuing the middle school transformation during Tuesday's Board of Education meeting.
Page 37 of this report quotes a Westall High School black student who says, a Westall High School black student said that grouping makes blacks feel like they are lower, and then that builds to be a hatred of white people in general. Several black and Hispanic students said that the students in the lower groups received less attention and assistance than those in the upper grades. Several students say that they thought that better teachers were assigned to the higher groups. Ability grouping, as it now operates, tends to resegregate the school system and reinforce feelings of inadequacy in minority students in the middle and high schools. The 1 to 4 grouping placed many lower income students who are predominantly black and Spanish speaking in the lower groups, and the higher income students who are predominantly white in the higher groups. Their recommendation: to the extent that it is educationally feasible, the school board should take steps to eliminate ability grouping at all education levels. Because many students remain through high school in the group to which they are originally assigned, particular attention should be given to the middle school where the first assignment takes place.
Drawing upon numerous studies, he concluded that grouping and tracking are bad for Stanford Public School students and could be harmful.
His comprehensive survey and analysis of tracking studies, Slavin did not find any significant benefits of tracking. On the contrary, there is a large body of evidence of the harm emanating from tracking. It has been shown that a gap is created between learners allocated to different ability grouping levels beyond what is expected on the basis of the initial differences between them. On the other hand, it has been demonstrated that it is possible to create a mixed ability learning environment in which the growth in inequity, as manifested by the above reported widened gap between learners, is avoided. Moreover, lower achievers' achievements improve while higher achievers' achievements are not impaired when compared to their peers' learning and tracking systems. Thus, learning in mixed ability groups may benefit the lower achievers without being at the expense of the higher achievers. Suffice to say, there is a significant amount of research supporting not only the move that we've made to limit the number of instructional levels, but also to provide good curriculum and good professional development. So the issue's been there for a long time, as you can see.
Assistant Superintendent Dr. Whitney Hamilton spoke immediately after Dr. Starr and explained the middle school transformation in greater detail.
One of the things of what was the middle school transformation, it was an increase of instructional time. It was using and creating a standard-based curriculum of curriculum, instruction, and assessment across the board. It was professional development for teachers so they would be prepared for the delivery of instruction and understand what assessments right across the board. It was increasing a period where the children could be supported who might not be prepared. So there was an academic enrichment and an academic support period. We also included efficacy. Efficacy is a training that comes from Jeffrey Howard's work around the importance of working hard and you get smarter, not that you're born smart or not. We also incorporated, because at the middle school, those of us who are familiar with turning points in middle school work, the importance of an advisory period, a time where adults could work with children and get to know them and really build some of the strengths around the way in which they interacted with each other to create community.
Educators followed, explaining their views on middle school transformation. One teacher from Turner River Middle School explained that not only was she tracked as a child, but she disagrees with the practice and sees her classroom flourishing with the middle school transformation.
So I've sort of been a part of this process from the beginning. And to top that all off, I'm a product of the Stanford Public Schools, and I was tracked in high school. I was fortunate enough to be tracked in honors classes and AP classes, but I witnessed firsthand what tracking did to my classmates and kids that I still see at reunions, and what Dr. Starr was talking about is a very real thing. I do book clubs, and as Winnie mentioned, it's still, the language arts curriculum is still a work in process, but we have come a long way, and I taught John Steinbeck to a group of children who 3 years ago would have been reading third grade level books, and they got it, and they loved it. And they were astounded and so proud of themselves when they found out that I read Steinbeck in high school and in college. You know, they were able to do it.
Another Turner River Middle School teacher says she watches her 8th grade students who have not received the middle school transformation yet struggle with the psychological effects of grouping.
And I think what I find very compelling is that we just celebrated the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. And we talked about that in my 8th grade U.S. history class this past couple of weeks. And the kids that are in my lowest level class this year, because I'm in 8th grade, middle school transformation hasn't happened yet, they ask me, why am I in this class? Why is everybody around me the same color as me, and why are all the white kids in the other class? And I can't answer that to them, other than to say, it's changing. You know, it's only 150 years since the Civil War, but it's been 150 years since the Civil War, right? And Dr. Starr talked about de facto segregation. De jure segregation was what Plessy v. Ferguson was. It said, oh, it's okay to be separate but equal. It's okay to separate the blacks and the whites. That was by law that it was allowed. De facto happens when we put policies in that end up segregating kids for no other reason other than the color of their skin, how much money they have, their resources, when they have all of the same ability as all the other kids. I was in 6th grade last year for the initiation of middle school transformation. Every kid that I taught was given an honors level education, and I modified it from there for their needs. Every kid in my classroom got that.
The Dolan Middle School principal explained that while things are improving, they're not perfect yet, and tracking our students is an educational embarrassment.
A few years ago, it was my first national conference with GE. And at one point during the conference, we were separated into job-alike roles, but working with other principals from other districts across the country. We had gotten involved in conversations about sharing best practices across the country, and it was such a powerful experience until one of the most embarrassing moments in my life as a principal came upon us when myself and a couple of other Stanford principals had been grouped with principals from 3 or 4 other major cities in the country. And we were asked the question, among several others, does your district track students? And we quickly retorted, oh yes, we do. And we got halfway into this conversation and we started getting very strange looks. The embarrassing thing was those principals were referring to data tracking when they realized that we were referring to grouping students by ability. Their mouths dropped open and the conversation stopped. The sharing came to a halt. They were shocked that any district committed to preparing students for the 21st century was still involved in any level of grouping students by ability. They clearly misunderstood when they asked us about tracking, and we answered yes. They said, we're talking about tracking students based on their achievement data. We haven't grouped students in years. We found out later in that conference that we were the only district represented amongst hundreds of quality educators. We were the only district in that entire conference who was still tracking students.
A few other teachers shared their personal experiences with tracking, saying they succeeded in life but that they viewed the issue from different perspectives.
My parents were from the segregated South, and they really understood the importance and the value of an education, so they pushed me hard because I didn't get the push that I should have received in the classrooms of Stanford schools. I may not have had the chance to attend college had I not had parents as the parents that I have, like the parents that I have. Many of the children who are grouped and put into separate categories, they don't have those support systems in place as I did. When you put kids in groups, in homogeneous classes, there's structures in place where there are gatekeepers at the doors that keep them away from opportunities that can help them grow. In my classrooms in Sanford, in middle school, and especially high school, the guidance counselors did not come to my classrooms to talk to me about college. That never happened. Information about college, that's not distributed in classes in different levels of groups. My guidance counselor, when I went to them by the instruction of my parents to go and get the information because it was not brought into the classrooms of certain groups. When I went to my guidance counselor, I was given an application for the United States Army. And then when I made the correction that I wanted to attend college, then I was given an application for Norwalk Community College. When you don't tap into what a child has, you never know the potential of what that child can be.
But I'm going to tell my own personal story as to why I believe in heterogeneous groups. I attended Westover Elementary School, and in 1968, I was very ill. I missed half of my school year. So that when I went back, I missed my standardized test. So when I went back, I sat in the principal's office at Westover, and that wasn't a magnet school then, traditional elementary school, before they desegregated. So I grew up on the west side, walked to school every day, and when I was going to take my standardized test, the principal said to me, timed me, and when he came in, he said to me, "Are you finished?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Okay, take some more time." And he came back again, and he said, "Are you finished with your test?" And I said, "No, I need a little more time." I wasn't the top student in my class, and I knew that. So after the second or third time, he gave me extra time. When I went to Clunan School, that was the first year that they bused North Stamford children and mixed them with the West Side children together at a brand new, beautiful, beautiful junior high school. So when I got in my academic class in the 6th or 7th grade, first year, I think it was it K to 5 in those days? I'm not sure, but anyway, first year in middle school, I sat in class, I looked around, and it was my French class. I was in honors French, and I was in honors English, and I was in honors social studies, but I did not belong there. It was very clear. I was so nervous. I wasn't the type of person that would go home and tell my mom or my dad, you know, I don't belong in this class. So did I get A's in the class like the rest of the students around me raising their hands? No, I was a C student. However, being placed in that group was the sole reason why I graduated college. Because in those days, when I went home to play with the neighborhood kids, they were not in any of the groups that I was in.
A teacher in the Clunan Middle School explained that 10 years ago, a curriculum was a foreign concept, and when he came to Clunan, he got a pleasant surprise.
Well, when I came into teaching 10 years ago, I'm telling you, there was no curriculums. When I sat down and became a teacher 10 years ago, I have no idea how I did it. With the support of a lot of other teachers. When I came to Clunan 3 years ago, I was expecting the same sort of thing in terms of having to figure out what my curriculum was going to be and sort of derive it on my own, and it was the complete opposite experience. And that I can say, that whoever was in charge of writing the curriculums and getting it all in order for all subjects, that is one of the best things that the district's ever done.
The rest of the working meeting they spent addressing issues arising from the fiscal committee. It was also announced that the budget reallocation meeting would be held on the 23rd.